Dormitabis, Chapter 3, A Failed First Impression.
Here, human, have some soup. It will help your nerves loose their droop.
The inventor gave a confused look to the cloaked zebra, as she had taken him back to her home in this forest. This strange forest in an even stranger world. He couldn't recall much from a time before today, or even last night, but he knew for a fact that animals aren't meant to talk, much less stand on 2 feet. Or well, not all of them, at least. Hesitantly, he reached out, taking the bowl from the generous Anthro and tipping it back against his lips. Drinking down the soup, he felt the gnawing ache in his stomach soothe, something in this liquid meal making him calm down. Yet despite his nerves loosening, his mind still buzzed with questions. Picking up on this, the zebra took a seat.
I see your mind still lingers questions. Perhaps some answers will simmer your mental aggression.
The inventor gave another glance at her, now figuring out that she'll only speak in rhymes. Rolling his eyes, he took another sip of the soup, before sighing out in content, now calm enough to ask without freaking out. Where am I? The cloaked zebra tilted her head.
To answer your question, there are many suggestions. If you are searching for where you reside now, you sit within my home with your chow.
She motioned towards the outside.
If you are curious about the country, then I will give the name bluntly. The kingdom of Equestria is where you stand, and no longer in the time and space of which you were planned.
Equestria. That's the name of this place? That explains the horse-like Homo sapiens. With a name like that, he can only assume that this world, or maybe even just this so-called kingdom, is inhabited by those pony girls. Seems like it was strictly a female society as well, which the inventor didn't really know how to feel about. Taking another sip, he eyed the zebra. Who are you? She turned her hand around, ushering with her fuzzy fingers towards herself.
I am Sakura, Ancient One. I live out here in the midst of this forest, procuring my potions and brews in weather either the coldest or hottest.
Sakura.
Would you care to tell me your name, human?
The inventor blinked as he turned his gaze forward. Try as he might, he couldn't even remember that. Feeling a sharp pain whenever he tried to dig deeper, he just shook his head. I don't know. I don't know my name.
You do not?
He shook his head. I can't remember. It's like 1,000 needles pricking my brain every time I try. It's so fuzzy. All I can remember clearly is a white light, and then the next I can recall is feeling some kind of... He gritted his teeth as he gripped his head, dropping the empty bowl as he growled. Sakura looked him over, watching as something seemed to squirm from beneath the blankets that covered his back. Tensing at the wavelengths of hatred that they gave off, she gently soothed the human.
Be still, human. You mustn't let your nerves consume you, even if you do not have a clue.
She picked up the bowl, bringing it over to her cauldron and setting it down on the desk beside it.
Within you is a nasty parasite, one that stems from hatred and spite.
The inventor calmed himself down again when hearing this, feeling at leave the moment that he registered what she said. Hatred and spite? But I don't know what I hate. I can't really feel spite for anything. All I am is just confused and hungry.
Hunger is but a side effect to the purpose of the sludge.
She lifted up a small vial of the same substance that was once wrapped around the human in his monstrous state. The thick liquid didn't seem agitated, but it was indeed alive.
For this is a legend with a grudge.
The human looked up at the small bottle, seeing the slime push up against the glass nearest to him. He could feel it calling to him, ushering him closer so it could take him. He shook his head, clearing his mind of the voice and shifting away. I can remember the time I was in... that. I don't know what it is, but someone was there before I became that. Before I felt that unbearable hunger, and... He slowly widened his eyes before standing. Oh god, the people, fuck. What did I do?
Calm yourself, my little creature. I can assure you that an innocent's death is not part of this parasite's feature.
He turned to her, she poured a drop of the thing into her cauldron, stirring it quickly so it could dissolve into the other products thrown in with it.
It would appear that your leech favors leaving its victims alive, so caring for a beast who uses other magical essence to thrive.
She brushed her hand under her chin as the human walked to the window, staring out into the foliage beyond the hut. I need to find out what happened. Sakura looked back at him as he trudged towards his seat. I don't know what it is, but something wants me to know. Like a part of myself is screaming at me to remember. Sakura was quick, pulling the blanket back over the human and guiding him towards the bedding beyond the seat.
In your condition now, I am afraid your ambition for adventure I must disallow. You are frail as you are, and some rest is needed to cure everything within you that is bizarre.
She sat him down again, ensuring that everything that she had was at the very least comfortable.
When you awaken, if you are feeling well, then we will discuss whether venturing is forsaken. I know I am no parent or guardian to you, but in this land, such a creature as yourself is non-existent and will surely find females coup.
The inventor ran her words through his head, trying to piece together what she was saying. And then it hit him. She said that Equestria was an all-female society. Nowhere in this country is there a single sentient guy. Having him just walk around freely would guarantee the stress and anger provoking the thing that he was earlier, or even worse, get him captured by the wrong people or the wrong group. Yeah, you're right, Hal. I'll take a minute, at least for right now. I need a minute to try and think anyways. He turned over and laid down, using the extra blankets as pillows to lay his head against, as the throbbing in his skull continued. Zecora, watching him, gave a sympathetic frown beyond her shadowed head. Brushing her fingers through the human's hair, she offered her 2 cents to comfort him.
You will be safe here. No pony would find you out this way, for not many wander so far within these woods without a seer.
The human didn't react, but Zecora could feel him loosen up the rest of his nerves. Giving a small smile, she brushed her hand over his arm before standing and leaving him to slumber. Returning to her cauldron, she eyed the dark liquid within the vial, before glancing at the contents within the large steel bowl.
So volatile, yet so calm. Perhaps this venom sees pony kinds with no qualm.
She hummed, before flipping the pages in an old book.
I shall give this a closer inspection in my research.
Within his dreams, the inventor saw nothing but a blur of oranges and red. Flickering lights were all around, teasing him through a lens that made everything less focused than it was. He couldn't make out the shapes, but the colors, the way the oranges and reds flicked and twitched about on certain things. He was almost sure that he was standing somewhere, and all around him the buildings were set ablaze. It was his most logical guess, as the heat emanating from them was almost unbearable. You never stood a chance to begin with. He turned around, seeing an equally blurry figure striding towards him. Not now, nor when you first opposed me. He turned down the other way, seeing the figure closer than he was before, and now walking from the other side of this burning path. All of your attempts to escape my grasp have failed, just as your attempts to stop me have failed. And now... The sound of shearing metal made the inventor step away from the figure. You will. The inventor quickly rose up his arms as he was assaulted by the flash of what appeared to be from a very large camera lens or perhaps even a flashbang. Shaking his head as light faded, he found himself elsewhere. Somewhere that was more... peaceful. He was in a roofless house under a beautiful brightly lit night sky. The furniture, the rooms, and even the overall aura of the place felt homey and snug, as if he was already wrapped in blankets full of love. Shivering at the feeling, he brushed his hands over one another as he wandered the home, looking out of the windows and seeing that same starry sky all around. It didn't take long for him to deduce that his dreams carried him unexpectedly to this tiny house in the middle of a rather comfortable void. With the previous scenario forgotten for now, the human re-entered the living room after exploring the kitchen and glancing about once again, as the stars above the house seemed to... move. It was faint, and looked to be very weak. When it became noticeable, the human turned up and watched the twinkling dots as they seemed to gather at one point. Then they gently circled around one another. In their circling, they formed a full moon shape with their speed, and as they revved up their power, the blinding light returned. This time, no more than a second passed before a new presence filled the area. It was a sense of regalness that was missed for a couple of centuries at best. With that moon shape turning a vibrant light lavender, the blue hue peeled away, and floated down to a hill that could be seen on the other side of the roof, despite the rest of the areas looking like a void. As the illuminated sphere touched down, a low hum came as it faded, allowing the human to meet face to face with one of the many that he'd come to regret his action towards.
You.
The dark blue alicorn didn't acknowledge the human at first. She was too busy relishing in the fact that despite it being 1,000 years and most of her natural power had been devoured, she was still able to travel to and from the dream realm. Her mane, which was still just discharged blue locks and bangs, drifted to the side in the non-existent wind, showing signs of the strands unlike her sister. This alone proved that she still had a long way ahead of her before she could be at her full potential again.
Such a peaceful aura this area carries.
She rolled over onto her back, placing her hands on her stomach.
And yet despite the setting, I've only been able to find you through your incredibly weaker link in the dream world than the others that drown in slumber amidst my nights.
The inventor stared up at the horse lady as she turned her head back, eyeing him curiously through her upside-down vision.
How strange. Here we believed when we stripped thou from thine current dream, we would see no less than a monster in need of punishment.
She rolled back over, blinking at him before giving a small playful smirk.
And yet we see not a monster, but a wandering dreamer in need of correction.
She flapped her wings, bringing her into the air and spreading them out to allow her a glide to the house. Landing upon the table gently, she gave a curt and respectful bow to the human.
Greetings, ancient youngling. We are ever so delighted to see thou is no horrendous monstrosity.
The princess looked up, spotting the human sizing her up. It's you. You were that horse lady in black, weren't you?
Thou doesn't remember?
She gave a small flap to right herself, folding her wings as she tilted her head.
It was thou who had saved us from the clutches of our mistakes, no? We remember you quite well, especially after the fact.
She ushered to his face, drifting a small star to his cheek, and trailing it down to his arm.
Your heft face and thou arm. We saw it in thine panic. We apologize for appearing before you in circumstances last night. But we have made many an error, and it resulted in our downfall.
Now the human was intrigued. With his own identity cast second to hers, he tilted his head back as he walked to the side a bit to get a better look at this Anthro woman. Downfall? Who are you? The female smiled as she ushered to herself. Oh man, Luna works in mysterious ways. I wonder if they're gonna be the best of friends. Anyways, let's get on to our very friendly donators. Top donators: Peter Coulthard, J10 Man, Darkside, Gauntlet, and Only One Thing. Zar630, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Crazy Killer 557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Libre, Chris, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Cadge, RuneScythe 9852, Madman Stan, Lizzie Prickett, Drake Lovedragon, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, LineGuy12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hud Zaza, and many more magical people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.